Hi, I'm George, welcome to GMakes, and in this tutorial we are going to make a stylized low poly tree in Blender to use in all your fun Christmas renders, forest renders, anything that you want this kind of claymation style. Oh, and it's all in geometry nodes, so you can change any part of it at any moment with very little fuss. Alright, so here we are in Blender, and like I said, this is all in geometry nodes, so we're going to with the default cube selected. Let's open up a new geometry nodes workspace, if I can click correctly. A new geometry nodes editor, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit new, and we're going to have this, I'll just name this like Xmas tree. There we go. And so we are now going to be down here in our geometry nodes workspace, but we are going to start with a curve line. So curve line right there. And now we have this, and we're going to, let's just change it to like 2 to start, 2 meters tall. And now we're going to resample that curve. I'm just going to do 7, because that's one I found for me. And then also, just off the bat, I'm going to reverse the curve, because I know I'm going to need this. But so we have this resampled curve right here. Basically, we have 7 points on here now. So I'm going to instance something on those points, and that's what this is. So instance on points, right there disappears, because we're not instancing anything. But I'm going to grab a cone, put that in, and let's see how that looks. It looks like a stack of cones, because that's what it is. So I'm just going to mess around with this a little bit. I'm going to maybe make the depth for the standard. This is basically going to be what the base cone is going to look like of our tree. We're going to modify it so it actually like tapers. But we just want to look at the base. I'll keep the radius, but let's go 1, 1. Let's see how that looks. You can always change it later, because it's fully procedural. So how do we get this to actually look like a tree? Pretty darn easy. We are going to grab a random value. Actually, not for now, we're going to use that later, but for the scale instance, that's what we're going to want to change. So like, yeah, you could do a random value, but they are random values, so you're not getting the tree look. What we actually want is a spline parameter, because we want the spline length. We put that into the scale, and we get this funky looking thing, as you can see. So because now it's saying that they're all the same scale going up, but if we get a vector math, yeah, and we scale them, now we have the scale going up. As we go up our spline, we go up in scale of these pieces. So this is where you can really mess around with the scale, 0.5 to get that look you want. But it's looking a little funky because of this very last one, because again, these are kind of exponentially scaled, I guess, as we're going up the line, and this very top point is looking a bit weird. So you could like be like, I'm going to resample this, but you see that still happens no matter how many you have. But we want to change that. We don't want this little weird top one. So I'm going to fix that by going down here and using the spline parameter and connecting it to my selection. So again, the length into the selection. It's not going to do anything because right now it's selecting the whole length. So what we need, which is real simple, is we're going to grab a math node, and then we are going to grab a greater than node. And you can see I already fixed it. And that's just saying we want to grab these points that are greater than this value. And again, we reversed the curve and everything. So if I turn off this reverse curve, you see it flips up that way, and we want it going down. And there we go. That's our tree. And again, now for that little bit of added randomness and kind of model-y looking stuff, I'm going to add this random value, plug that into rotation. It's getting real funky because I just want this like 0.1, and then let's say like negative 0.1, and there we go. So we get that kind of wonkiness that's pretty darn nice. And again, you can change the seed on this if you want, because it's just a random value. So that's our base tree. Pretty darn straightforward if you ask me. But we want to add a stem, a trunk to this. And we're going to do something very similar. So we're going to grab a curved line, but I'm going to make this much smaller. Let's say like half this, like or a quarter the size, 0.5. There we go. And we're going to do something similar. So we're going to resample the curve. We're also going to reverse it, I believe. So I'm going to do that here. I might turn that off. We're just going to do something like 2 because we just need the endpoints, though you can change this depending on the look you want. And we're going to grab a curve to mesh, put that in there, and we're going to use a circle, a curved circle. As that is way too much. You also want to fill caps, but that is way too thick. So we're going to do set curve radius right down there. And now that's too thin, and we also want this to taper slightly. My original version didn't, but then There's a YouTube short also on like TikTok and everything. Follow me on TikTok at gmakes3d. And somebody suggested that making the base flared. So that's where this idea comes from. Again, grabbing a spline parameter and using the length. But you can see this gets us, again, just basically a cone. So we want to go to vector math. Vector math, we're going to change this to a scale. And now we can control that scale. But you know, it's going straight into a point, and we kind of want it more like a flat stump to use because this is just really steep. And again, you could like change the height to kind of control that, or like scale it or something, but that's not what I want to do. So real simple, we're just going to grab a math node, put that there, and you're just going to keep it on add because look at it, already solved it. We just have to change this value to kind of control how much we're adding, and we can change the scale to control because it's always going to do that. So the scale will control that base radius essentially, and then this will control kind of the overall look of it. So let's go to 0.3. Love it. So that's it. That's pretty simple. But now I want to put our tree, this stuff, what is it? Control or Shift P to make this frame. So this is actually our tree right here. And I want to put that on top of our stem here. Or stem, I keep calling it stem. It's a trunk. Trees don't have stems, they have trunks because they're always about to go on vacation. Oh boy. So here we go. So how we're going to get this is we're going to, again, instance, but we're going to grab another resample curve, and then we're going to curve line down here, resample that to 1, grab another instance on points, and again, I'm going to Alt-P to get that out of there, and then I'm going to connect this resample curve from our original trunk line. I'm going to put that into the instance on points, because I want that to be our main geometry. And then our whole tree, so this whole tree instance down here is going to go into our instance. And what's that going to do? Well, it's going to do this. If we go boop, there we go. And then, oh yeah, we need to do it after the reverse curve. Because you can see if I do like 2, it's going to put 1 up there, and that's what I want. So I actually want to grab this after the reverse curve. There we go. So now it's setting this up on top of our mesh up there. And then we can even go ahead and we can join those together. Join geometry, bada bing, bada boom, we got a tree, and it's sitting there on top of it. But that's the gist of that. And now the next step is making this look pretty darn good. We're gonna keep material simple and all that, but there are a couple things. So I'm just gonna actually grab 2 set material nodes because we'll put those in later. But I am going to make this look better. And the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna grab a subdivision surface. And look, it's already looking, I don't know, kind of better. But the key to this is we're going to go like to 3 on this, and then we're going to crease the edges a bit. So that's all the way. The last thing we want to do before like materials and stuff is we want to also set shade smooth. But I'll put this for both of those. So you can see shade smooth does that. The reason why I don't have this where this is so that they're both the trunk and the tree bit are being subdivision is because I do want that to be subdivided. So I'll put it there, but I want maybe a little bit more crease on my trunk. And then also, if you like, I don't really like that, you can always turn it off more easily if they're separate. But we do want different materials for these, so that's why we're keeping it there. And that's it. That's our tree. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I'm actually going to even go and see, this is the nice thing about using this idea of especially using this tree as the instance base is I'm like, that's too tall. Oh, look, I can shrink the trunk and the whole thing moves. I don't got to use a transform or anything. Now we're going to add a couple little baubles to this, or I guess they could be ornaments. I like to think of them as lights. So we're going to just add a little pizzazz to this tree, a little pizzazz. So we're going to grab another instance on points. But before that, we're going to grab a distribute points on faces. Distribute. After the subdivision surface, again, why it's all the way over here, because I don't want any on the trunk. We're going to put that into the mesh, points into points, and then we are going to just look at this one for now. So instance on points, I'm going to grab an icosphere, because I don't want a ton of geometry for this. You could use a UV sphere, but why? And we're going to instance, and that is too much. They are too big, so off the bat, I'm just going to change this radius to 0.1. That's a bit better, and I'm going to also get a random value for this, and then we can turn that to like 0.1, and this to like 3, I think is what I like. And we can keep that there, and we'll go ahead and join geometry again. I don't need shade smooth for these icospheres, so I'm putting them after. And there we go. So we have some icospheres, some baubles, whatever you want to call them. And maybe I do want to do a second subdivision on that and just to look a little bit better. But you can see they're all over the tree, and I like them kind of all over, but maybe you don't want them on the bottom right there. So you can actually go all the way back to our original cone that we're using as an instance, grab that bottom selection and plug that in to this instance on, or even the distribute on points. Or actually, we don't want the bottom, we want the sides, because we want everything but the bottom. So there we go, the sides, and now it took away of those bottom faces. I'm going to maybe make this up to 20. There we go, and now we got some bubbles. And that's dandy, and we'll get another set material node for later. Maybe I want something more. Maybe I just want to, I don't know, make them animate a little bit and have a bit fun, like some twinkling lights. A couple ways to do that. They're all going to be based on the same method. So I'm just going to kind of focus on one. But we're going to use this random value. Again, it has a seed value down here. So if we get a scene time and plug that in frame to seed, they're going to vibrate all over the place because it's saying every frame do this. So we first want to give a math node. We're going to divide, pretty common. I'm going to switch to, I like 30 frames per second, so I'm just going to go there. You can see now nothing's really happening because I'm going to go half a second, which is 15 frames. And now you can see they're flicking all over. And that's playing back pretty much real time, or it is real time right now. So you can see this is how fast those lights will flicker. But they are all different, so this looks fine, and I actually kind of like this look, as if there's lots of lights, but there's no like pattern to this. But let's say you do want to like kind of ping pong between two sets of lights, as if like there's one going on, one going off, one going on, one going off. We can do that pretty easily by using a, well, ping pong. But first, we are going to grab another math node. We're going to set this to snap, and we want it to snap to increments of 1 because we want whole integers for this. And then I'm going to grab I'm going to actually duplicate that same math node, set it to ping pong down here, ping pong, and then if I go back, you can see I have this just set to 1, but you can see it's going between the two. And then maybe I want this to be 0. And maybe you're like, I don't want a random value here because I don't want these scales and I want like it to change. And this ping pong too, basically it's saying we're snapping to a whole integer, and then this is saying we're basically floating between the seed value of 0 and 1, 0 and 1, 0 and 1 back and forth. But we could also change this random value to a Boolean. So it's kind of saying yes or no. You can see the fun things that happen when we apply that to a scale, probability. But if we apply that to, I believe the radius will work. Nah. So this one's a little iffier, but I think we gotta take a vector math, and I think if we go to scale, we'll be able to do this. Yeah, so then you go, and then if you want them all to be the same size, you can see, there we go. We're getting those two kind of sets. Some are the same between them. Oh, because we want this to be 0.5. But there we go, now they're changing. So now we have those two sets of lights, essentially, that are flickering on and off as we might want them. So that's it, except for textures. And let's just do, these are going to be real simple, real quick. So we're just going to open up a texturing workspace over here, just next to it. I like doing one on the side, shader editor. And we're going to just use this blank material, and we'll rename this tree. And so now I'll take the thing that's coming from our tree section down here, and I'll put that as tree. I'll duplicate this, and we'll name it trunk. I'll duplicate it again, and we'll call it lights. And now we can go ahead and select these. So this will be trunk, and these will be lights. And now if I go into material preview mode, we can start with tree. And I'm just going to find where my little shader boy is. There he is. There we go. We got our shader. And then you could just change this base color to green. Whatever green you want. I'm gonna do something a little bit more. I'm gonna stay in Eevee, but I'm gonna grab an ambient occlusion. I'm gonna grab, I'm just gonna copy this color because I kind of like it. I'm gonna grab a color ramp, and then I'm just gonna color, and then this black, I'm gonna move up, and we'll do like a purplish, bluish maybe. And then this white, I'll paste that green I had. And so now, and then I'll paste maybe another one. Maybe I want that to maybe a highlight. So the main fancy thing, and also like maybe the trunk, we grab a brown texture. Maybe make that a little darker. There we go, but we want that much rougher. Like that. That's maybe a little too red. Something like that. And now the last thing is the lights, which I'm going to grab. And we're going to change this to an emission texture. So emission. And then I'm going to grab a color ramp. I'm also change the strength to maybe like 5 or something. And then my render settings, ambient occlusion, bloom, screen space, all those fun stuff, depending on how the style you want. And then I'm going to grab an object info and random. And then I can even go to constant. And there we go. And that's gonna go white. So there we go. And because we're not realizing these instances, that's why this random works. If you had to realize your instances, it won't work. So just make sure you're keeping this simple. And then maybe we'll choose some, you could do like white and black, because that's like white's a pretty nice Christmas color, but I'll choose like some red, make those all the way bright, yellow, green, and then yeah, let's grab some blue as well. And then you can see if I play that back, it's gonna go back and forth between some of those lights. That's it. That is a Christmas tree in Blender. Geometry nodes, all of it. Yeah, pretty simple, pretty easy, pretty straightforward. I hope you like this tutorial. Subscribe if you like more things like this. You can also follow me on Instagram at GeorgeMakes3D, on TikTok at GMakes3D, and of course, here on YouTube as I post videos. If you have any suggestions or comments or things you'd like to see made in Blender, or effects you'd like to see me try, leave those suggestions in the comments below. And like this video if you did, and I'll catch you for the next tutorial. Peace.